Welcome back, Fude lovers. If you're new, hi. I make videos about Kumano Fude and would love to have you subscribe and join me in Fude Wonderland. I'm thrilled to share my latest Fude Japan haul with you guys. Fude Japan is a Tokyo-based personal shopper and his name is Toshiya. He's a total gem and I highly recommend him. I'll put his contact information below. I heard about Kyureido years ago but never went out of my way to purchase since I didn't care for the Suku cheek and thought having the Suku face was enough. Kyureido makes dupes of the Suku cheek and face brushes with gold sparkles on the bottom of the handles. They no longer print the Kiwami kanji or fine kala on brushes that you ask them to put engraving on. They also no longer print the Kiwami kanji on any of their brushes from this line for whatever reason. Toshiya had a blog post a couple months ago mentioning he was coming out with a cheek brush and I was stoked. Kyureido makes Fude Japan's brushes, but not one brush is identical to one another due to bundling variances. I haven't put any of the brushes from the haul in brush guards. All the scroll brushes here are made out of gray squirrel. Squirrel hairs are great for building up pigment and provides a softer finish compared to goat. This is the Fude Japan S. The handle is black without sparkles and it doesn't narrow on the bottom like the other ones. So the other one that I have is the Fude Japan M on the left, and it narrows on the bottom and it has sparkles. So I wish the S matched the rest of the brushes because I prefer narrow handles. This is the dupe for the Suku S. It's soft without any pokey hairs. Both this brush and the M are color placers for me since squirrel doesn't really blend on my skin. It's on the dense side with medium flexibility but feels firmer when being used. It applied a medium matte purple shadow on the outer corner without any issues. I tried it for halo eyes and it's a little too big and stubby for my liking to apply exactly where I want it, and the color isn't intense enough. You might like it though since everyone's application methods and eye sizes are different. It just was too big for the inner corner of my eyelids too. Here's the head comparison with the M on the left. This is also the Fude Japan M, which is also soft without any pokey hairs. It's similar to the Hakuhodo Kokutan T, which I used to own. That one had one or two scratchy hairs that poked me. This is basically a larger version of the S with a rounded head. It's dense and applies color vibrantly even though squirrel hair usually mutes the color. The Fude Japan L is my friend's, but she said I could play with it and feature it in a video. It's silky soft. It looks less dense than my old one due to bundling variances. So my old one is on the left. You can see the differences of the handles for the old one on the left and the new one on the right. The old one didn't have sparkles either, and the engraving was a lot better in my opinion. Now it's just printed on. And I like the old font better. I think hers is bundled really well. I like to use my L as an Oliver lid shader and on the tips to apply crease color. I highly recommend this brush. Also, it's the dupe for the Suku L. These are the Fude Japan cheek and Kyureido cheek brushes. I asked Toshiya if he was going to have a cheek brush when I placed an order in 2017. I've been waiting since then for him to come out with one because I want to support him. I considered buying two Fude Japan cheek S and M brushes this time around, but wanted to compare with Kyureido, so I got those two. In retrospect, I should have at least purchased two cheek brushes instead of the Kyureido cheek, but I was curious to see how they would compare. The cheek brushes will mainly be for collecting purposes for me as it's not my favorite shape or density level. I much prefer the Chikuhodo Z4 on the left for blush. I'm so happy that most of his brushes have sparkly handles now as they used to be just black. They're rainbow sparkles, calling all sparkle lovers. If you love shimmer and glitter, yeah, this is for you. He mentioned eventually coming out with a face brush in one of his recent blog posts. I'm totally going to buy his face brush when he comes out with it too. Both the Fude Japan cheek on the left and the Kyureido one on the right have the same shape. They have a pinched oval ferrule. My Fude Japan one on the left is a little bit denser than the Kyureido cheek on the right, but they both apply and blend the same. I used both with the Cover FX Monochromatic Duo Blush, which is soft pressed. Once I've applied the color, it stays in one spot as in it doesn't blend upwards towards the rest of the cheek. However, it does blend the color out a bit in the spot it's been applied. If I pat the color on and don't blend back and forth, the vibrancy is maintained. I prefer not to use the head in repeated back and forth motions too much as I don't want to damage the hairs. I also tried them with Surratt's La Vie en Rose, and I had to swipe into the pan at least 5 times for the amount of pigmentation I like to show up. It applies pretty much the same as the Cover FX blush. The Suku cheek on the left, which has been in a brush guard, applies in a similar fashion, but really doesn't blend for me, which means the 5 or more swipes of color I've patted onto my cheek is bolder. The Fude Japan and Kyureido cheek brushes both blend better than my Suku cheek. Here's the Suku cheek on the left compared to the Kyureido cheek on the right. I'm glad I bought them, and if you love the Suku cheek or wispy cheek brushes, you can give them a try. If you don't like the Suku cheek and like better blended blush that's also buildable, I recommend the Chikuhodo RC2, Z4, and Kyureido BP9 instead. This is the Kyureido S. It's the same size as the Fude Japan M on the left. It's supposed to be the same shape, but mine is bundled with a taper and lopsided. The Kyureido S has more hair on one side, so I think you can tell in the camera, but the one on the right, which is the S, it's like uneven right here. It's also less dense than the Fude Japan M. It's just as soft as the Fude Japan M though. Since it's less dense, it picks up less product, so I need to go back into the shadow a couple more times. It applies with the same vibrancy, but I prefer the Fude Japan M even though I typically prefer brushes with tapers. This is the Kyureido face. I rarely start a review with praising a brush, but I just want to say that I love this brush and I wish I bought it years ago because I was really missing out. Half of the bottom portion of the handle has sparkles on it, and I love sparkly things, so I'm all for it. It's very soft. I was honestly shocked at how it could still be so soft even after washing, as I was expecting hair quality decline. I don't feel any prickly or scratchy hairs on the face when I'm using it. I'm not sure if this is going to pick up on camera, but there are curly hair tips, which is odd for a gray scroll brush. I think they mixed a small percentage of pony or horsehair in it, but it doesn't affect the softness. It's shaped like a diamond and also reminds me of ice cream on a cone. It has a round ferrule, so the head is completely round. The head has a lot less resistance compared to my Suku face. So let me pull out my Suku face. My Suku face is the one I'm holding right now, and you can see. I'm going to try to show you on my arm if I have enough space. So Kyureido is on the left and Suku is on the right. You can see that the Kyureido splays out a lot more. The Suku face is firmer and less flexible. Also, the Suku face was in a brush guard, and I try to fluff it up as much as possible. Both are bundled unevenly with the sides kind of concave or with slants. I try the Kyureido face and the Suku face with loose setting powder for reviewing purposes, but I normally wouldn't use it on top of a creamy base, otherwise the hairs will clump and break. My Kyureido face feels airy during application, while my Suku face does not, which is the complete opposite of my friends' Kyureido and Suku face brushes. I've also read online in the past that the Suku face is airy, but mine does not feel airy, so it must be an anomaly. Here's the differences in the handle with the Kyureido on the left and the Suku on the right. Both apply loose setting powder extremely smoothly and makes the skin look incredibly polished. Both brushes give a better finish than Goat for me at the moment, since Goat has been accentuating my dry spots. They apply the same for finishing powder, which is also smooth and light. I highly recommend the Kyureido face if you want a round, pillowy, soft powder and finishing brush. I don't have my friend's brushes with me, but her Kyureido face is from 2016. She said the softness is pretty comparable. Her Kyureido is larger than her Suku, and she wouldn't buy off differences in softness, but rather density. Her Kyureido is noticeably more dense, so it has a little bit more resistance when you're applying pressure against your cheeks. It also has less give, and her Suku is more flexible and molds to the face. Her Suku splays more because it's more airy and the shapes are slightly different. So her brushes are completely different from mine. This is the Hakuhodo B116G, which is also in the J line as J116. White bristles don't show up on video well, so please excuse the dirty bristles. I also put tape on the ferrule to focus on the brush head. I've been contemplating between this and the S113BK since 2017, but couldn't decide which one to buy. Both are labeled as highlight brushes, but I think they're multifunctional, so I tested it out for setting powder, blush, and highlight. The heads essentially looked the same in the showroom and were much more compact and tapered because they weren't washed. I wasn't expecting it to have such a different shape post-wash. The head is shaped like 3/4 of an Oreo cookie, which is super cute. It would definitely become more tapered if I put it in a brush guard. It has light density. I used it with loose powder and it gave a sheer to light finish. I absolutely love it as a small setting brush to sweep and use all over, as it works in the small areas of the face too, such as underneath the eyes. I prefer to sweep with it over patting as it feels nicer against the skin in a sweeping motion. If you have oily to combination skin, this will work better for setting the under eyes than all over the face, as the head isn't dense enough to grab a lot of powder at once. I got oily relatively quickly after setting my face with it, since my skin gets oilier in the summer and I don't like retouching my makeup, so this would be better for the colder months. I tried it as a large eyeshadow laydown brush and it felt soft on a day when my eyelids were pretty oily. It applied a light wash of color all over the lid. I think people with a lot of lid space would thoroughly enjoy sweeping this across their eyelids. For blush, due to the thinness of the head, it picks up a lot less than a thicker brush like the Chikuhodo Takumi T5, as it has less body power. This means it's suitable for building up color and subtle blush. You can sweep and pat horizontally or pat vertically with it. With Addiction's Chelsea Rose blush, it deposited color in a targeted area and had to work kind of hard to blend out. With Tarte Amazonian Clay Matte and Shimmery blushes from the color wheel, it applied a bit better with the formula. This is Addiction's Chelsea Rose, and this is a Tarte blush from the color wheel. With NARS Gulu, which is medium pressed, it applied more smoothly but still subtle and targeted. The head is also pretty big and the pan is so small. And this one's the NARS blush. With a Wet n Wild highlighter, it's pigmented and evenly blended. With a Tarte Amazonian Clay highlighter, it gives a light, subtle finish. I don't like it for contour or bronzer, as the shape is not suitable for those for me, but I can make it work if I didn't have any other brush. I was hoping it would be a holy grail multifunctional brush for traveling, but it's not dense enough for my liking. A friend let me borrow and play with her Chikuhodo Takumi T5, and hers is much flatter and more rounded compared to the one that I used to own, but I did always use to keep that one in a brush guard. The shape of the B116G and T5 are very similar, with the T5 being larger and denser. Sometimes I'll buy a brush again after I've sold it to give it another 1 or 2 tries, since bundling and hair batches vary. It works well for cheekbone highlight if you don't keep it in a brush guard. I have been enlightened. The only thing I want to mention is Chikuhodo's QC hasn't been that good over the past couple years. I'm not sure if this is going to pick up on camera, but there's like an area right here where it looks like there should be hair there to make it more even, but it's not there. Also, the T5 is soft, but I think the original one I had from a couple years ago was a little bit softer. I'm glad that the softness didn't change that much. The B116G would be more suitable for those of you who like sheer, natural, and light finishes, while the T5 is suitable for those who like medium finishes. I think those who prefer small face brushes and subtle blush would love this. The Hakuhodo B142 is a tapered blush for blending. I wanted to replace mine since it got scratchy after a couple years. My old one is on the left and the new one is on the right. The new one is tapered and less dense than my first one. My old one is rounded at the top. The pointy tip provides better control and targeted blending. It gets into the eye socket area, but not too deep. Since the older one has a rounded and denser head, it blends out in a larger area and is a bit more messy, but they both have the same blending power. If you use it to apply and blend crease color, the tapered one will give a more precise V outer edge compared to the round one. Sometimes bundling variances make a large difference in how brushes apply. Both have about the same resistance, which is pretty firm and keeps its shape during application. The hairs don't splay out when used in windshield wiper motions. I rekindled my love for this brush and I'm so glad I picked up a new one. This is the Hakuhodo cleaning towel. I used it to review, hence the dirtiness. I wanted the beige one, but Japan seems to only carry the white one. It's made out of polyester. Hakuhodo specifically developed the cloth for the brushes. It has a bunch of tiny loops, which seems to be pulled out easily. It doesn't remove makeup or oils as well as regular microfibers, but those damage the hairs more. This is after using the Addiction blush and then wiping it on the Hakuhodo towel. I've been trying to be more gentle while cleaning Fude on cloths lately to avoid hair damage. Compared to the Bishodo and Shosho long towels, Bishodo is made out of cotton, but it feels like soft linen and is weaved. Let's see if it can show up on camera. Due to being weaved, there are a lot of tiny holes and it's kind of translucent. I don't think it's going to show up on camera, but in real life, you can kind of see through it. It's concerning because I don't want the makeup brush residue to go through it and transfer onto whatever I placed on top of it. It also seems to slightly peel when you use it. However, it does seem to remove more makeup than the Hakuhodo towel. Personally, I'm not a fan of the Bishodo towel. The Shosho long towel is made out of a super soft material similar to plush baby blankets. It removes makeup and oils really well. I really like this one. Keep in mind this is more of a first impression for these towels since I haven't seen how they hold up from washes yet. Overall, I would recommend the Hakuhodo and Shosho long ones over the Bishodo. This is unrelated to the haul, but someone on Instagram asked me about the Chikuhodo Takumi T4 compared to the Passion PS-2 and whether or not they're different enough to get both. The T4 is made out of undyed Seikoho while the PS-2 is dyed Sokoho. Before using the brushes, I had set my face, then I used the Glow Cream base, the cream blush, and then the Duo Glow on top of one another from Natasha Denona's Bloom palette. Then I used the brushes with a matte NARS blush on top of everything. The PS2 blended and diffused the blush easily and it looks stunning. If you use NARS blushes a lot, this brush is perfect for it. The T4 applied more targeted and didn't blend as well as the PS2. It makes sense since the T4's hairs are softer. As I've mentioned in the past, different hair types work differently with products and some hair types are more suited for one brand's products while another less so. Undyed Go Hair and Dyed Go Hair pick up and apply quite differently from one another. Even the same hair type, for example, Undyed Go Hair will perform differently for the same product. The T4 excels with hourglass blushes, which is my favorite way to pair them. I particularly love using it with Incandescent Electra. It gives the perfect peachy pink finish. Thank you so much for watching and I'll see you in my next video. Bye! The Shosho long towel is made out of a super soft material similar to plush, but I can't say baby blanket quickly. I'll say bleh bleh bleh. A friend let me borrow and play with her Chikuhodo Takumi T5, and hers is much flatter and more rounded compared to the one that I used to own, but I did always used to... I'm like raging so hard right now.